Hello and welcome back to Three Things with JR, episode 114. We are into season 4 of this show. It's crazy that it's been going on this long. Almost 3 entire years of doing a podcast, getting into our 4th year. Wow. And it's been fun. I am enjoying making the show. I hope you're enjoying listening to the show. I'm in a weird mood here today. After work, it was a good day at work, really good day. More on that in a minute. But after work, I stopped by Kroger and walking around. I had a few things I needed to get at the grocery store. Didn't really have much of a plan other than getting those few things. Walked around, grabbed a few extra things, and I was sort of just in a daze. I wasn't super present. For example, there's a Starbucks in my Kroger. I stopped at the Starbucks, ordered my stuff, and then I'm kind of just looking at my phone, waiting for my stuff to come. A guy orders after me, and his stuff comes, and I look up and I go, oh, there's a cup there. And I was like, is that my chai tea latte? And the guy at the Starbucks says, yep, it's been ready for a few minutes now. I mean, I didn't even know that I had been standing there for a few minutes. So lost time, just gone. Then I get over in line at the self-checkout. And I'm standing there again. I'm not even really looking at my phone that time. I'm just sort of standing there thinking whatever. And the lady calls over and says, hey, register number 9's open. And I didn't even notice. I had been standing in line waiting for one to open up and just didn't even see it. Normally I'm right there. I'm on it. But just sort of in a daze. I think that's because today at work was different than most other days of the past few months at work. And I think a little bit more mentally taxing. So yeah, more on that here in thing number 1 coming up. What else is going on? Last night, fed the dogs the normal way, the normal food, the same food we've been feeding them for a while. About an hour later, or maybe even a little less, my dog, Scherzer, as I'm sitting here at my desk where I'm sitting right now, I look to my left about 10 feet away. Scherzer barfs up every single bit of food that he ate and then some. The pile of barf on the kitchen floor was bigger than the pile of food I just gave him. So I figure he must have found something to eat out in the yard, running around when we got home before he came inside. He must have found something interesting that he couldn't resist, and it must not have agreed with him because there were 2 separate piles of barf, and I mean, I am almost gagging just thinking about it. I hope you don't start gagging just from hearing words, but I have to live with the sight of it, the smell of it, watching it come out of Scherzer's mouth, the sound of a dog barfing, not all that pleasant, and then he barfed a second time. And I don't deal with it very well. I am very, very cool with most things that many people find disgusting. My girlfriend Kiki, not into babies, has never changed a baby's diaper, and has no plans to ever change a baby's diaper, finds that disgusting. She cleaned the dog barf up last night like it was no problem at all. If I got anywhere near it, I immediately had heavy-duty gag reflex going on. I had to block my eyes from it. I had to plug my nose. I was about to clean it up because you can't just leave barf sitting on the floor, but Kiki was busy doing something in the back of the house. She came out right at the last second and totally saved the day, and was baffled at how much of a sissy boy I am when it comes to dog barf. And how can I change babies' diapers without a problem? They don't gross me out, but I can't deal with dog barf. It's a totally different thing. I can't explain it myself, but I've changed hundreds, maybe thousands of baby diapers, and have no problem doing that. I've even changed adult diapers from when Angela's dad was in his last few months of life. He needed all the help he could get, and I dealt with that without a problem. But dog barf, can't do it. So glad for Kiki that she can. Anyway, that's normally like a thing number 3 thing. But I've got a better thing number 3. So let's Let's get into the things.
Thing number one.
Today was a different day of work than I am used to, and it was different for a few big reasons. I train people at Crutchfield to sell stereos on the phones in our call center, and that's what I've been doing now for, like 16 years, something like that. For most of those years, that job would involve bringing in new sales advisors into my training room, and I would be in the room with them, training them, like a teacher with students at their desks, using computers, and live in-person training takes about 3 months each time we do a training class. Been doing that for many, many years. All of that changed with the pandemic. So it's been 3 years since that happened. And to facilitate training during the pandemic, we did it all remotely using Microsoft Teams. Every person, new advisors that were hired would come to Crutchfield, grab their new computer, take it home, set up their desk at home, and train. They would train remotely. So I would be sitting in my office at Crutchfield all alone in the basement of Crutchfield, looking at a computer screen, talking to 10, 12 other people, teaching them how to sell stereos. So the same job being done very differently for the pandemic to keep everybody safe. We adapted. It was weird at first, but then we sort of settled into a pretty nice rhythm where we kind of liked this remote training thing. It's kind of nice to just sit in the room by yourself, and if you turn your camera off, nobody can see what you're doing. When you turn your camera on, you're on, and it's the same job, but it's different because you're not surrounded by people. And we are now to the point where we, are asking the new advisors to come into the office, and we're once again doing live in-person training, and I've been pretty excited about it for a while now. I've known it's coming for a few months. It's been, we've been setting up a new training room and enhancing it with new gear, and it's something I've been looking forward to big time. We're sort of also combining the concept of remote training with live in-person training. So we have 2 contact centers, and we have a class in Southwest Virginia and a class in Charlottesville. We used to completely train them separately, but now that we know we can train people anywhere, we have 2 trainers, one in Southwest plus me in Charlottesville, and we're both live in our physical rooms with physical people, but we're also remotely joined over the internet using Microsoft Teams. So we're kind of combining what we have been doing throughout the pandemic with remote training with what we used to do, live in-person training. And it's a hybrid, and today was the first day of that. And it went really well. I mean, that's not really what I'm here to tell you about exactly. It went well. It was awesome. Everything we'd hoped it would be. New challenges that we weren't expecting. Some of the benefits of all in-person training are there, but not all of them. Some of the benefits of all remote training are there, but not all of them. It's just a weird mix. It's a slightly new version of doing the same job I've been doing for a long time. And we are continuing to adapt and innovate and stuff like that. It's been great. It was awesome. Day one is inspirational, really. But leading up to day one was weird. I'm not typically one to get very nervous about things, right? I regularly perform. I do this podcast. I play music in the band. I get up and do stand-up comedy. I get on stage. I sing and dance and act. And none of that gives me, certainly I feel pressure to do well. But it's not really like I'm not nervous. I'm not scared to go out on that stage and do those things. The more prepared to do those things I am, the more comfortable and ready to do them I feel. So, I certainly feel comfortable, knowledgeable, and equipped to do this job at Crutchfield, but there was something different about today. I think it's the fact that we were combining all of this new and old sort of way of doing things into something that was a little bit unknown. And so I don't know that I felt as fully prepared as I actually was. And the way that I know that it was affecting me is because it's been a long time since I've had work dreams. work dreams where your job and the stress of your job, infiltrates your sleep and gets in there, and you have very realistic work dreams where things aren't going right. I've had work dreams. I had work dreams when I first started at Crutchfield, and it was crazy. Like back then, 1996, I started at Crutchfield in June. I finished training in August, and I was a fully commissioned salesperson, learning the ropes, learning how to communicate and sell things to people, how to ask good questions, recommend products, and then ultimately ask someone to buy something, right? Which is not something everybody can do, but I have that skill. I have no problem asking people for their money if I think it's worth it. But this was a whole new thing, and I was learning in 1996. In September of 1996, my daughter was born. And so fast forward a few months, I am in the thick of this new job, really getting comfortable, asking for money and selling things. And there was a lot of talk about, asking for their credit card information, right? That's a thing you have to do on these sales calls. And this is what infiltrated my night dreams. There was a night where, back then I did some sleepwalking apparently too. So our daughter Allison was asleep in her bedroom. Angela was asleep in the bed next to me. And the baby started crying. I got up. I went into the bedroom. I got Allison out of her crib. I went back into our bedroom to give her to Angela so that she could nurse her in the middle of the night. This was a regular occurrence, but this particular time I did not wake up. All of that happened while I was 100% asleep. And when I got to the bedside to hand Allison to Angela, Angela looked at me and said, "Adam, give me the baby." And I was like, "No, I can't." "What? What do you mean? Give me the baby." "No, I can't." "Why not? What is wrong?" I said, "She won't give me your credit card number." And Angela had to get out of bed, kind of gently take Allison out of my arms and wake me up kind of all at the same time. No harm, no foul. Nothing bad happened as a result of this other than Angela. I don't think she relied on me to go get Allison in the middle of the night anymore. But because I totally sleepwalked. I don't know, past tense of sleepwalk. I totally walked in my sleep, picked up our baby and brought her to Angela. But somehow I thought she was a customer I needed to get a credit card from. That's the type of work dreams I used to have. Haven't had anything like that in many, many years. But last night, Sunday night, leading up into a brand new work thing on Monday, I went to bed a little earlier than normal. I was prepared and I got up a little earlier than normal, but I had a very fitful night of sleep and my dreams kept waking me up. And in my dreams, it was like I was at work in my new training room with my new trainees, with my new Microsoft Teams computers and microphones and cameras, and things were not going well. I wasn't eloquent in my speech. I wasn't delivering training very well. The technology wasn't working. People were annoyed, and it just that would happen in a dream, and then I would wake up, realize what was just happening, go back to sleep. I have no problem going back to sleep and have another one. I think I woke up 4, 5, 6 times like that, having those types of dreams. And each time I would wake up, I was man, I'm glad that was just a dream. I really hope tomorrow goes well. And then I go back to sleep. And then it would happen again. It was crazy. I've never had that fitful of a night of sleep for that reason ever that I can remember. I mean, normally I sleepwalk through these things, apparently, but this one kept waking me up. The good news is I got to work plenty early and got everything up and running. Everybody showed up. And we had a wonderful day of training. None of the stuff I had dreams about happened. It was a perfectly executed day, first day of training with all the new technology and all the new people. So I'm happy to report it worked out well, but apparently I was stressed out about it. I didn't feel like I was, but I think there's evidence to show that I actually was. So, but I think just being prepared got us through all of that. I keep saying me. I don't want to overshadow the fact that there's another trainer, Chris Mullins, who's he's been on this show before in the past. I've had him on in season 2, if you go way back and listen to those. He's a good guy. Him and I shared a lot of similar things, and we're both pretty damn good at our job. And so it's not just me training these people, but it is just my podcast. So I'm just telling you how it affected me. Haven't had a chance to talk to Chris yet. I know he takes his job very seriously, and it affects him in emotional and physical ways as well. So I don't typically have that as a thing, but it definitely happened. And happy to report it all went well. We'll be right back with thing number 2.
Be love. Love will find a way. Yes, it will. Let there be love. Love will find a way. Always.
All right, we're back. Let's do it.
Thing number 2.
Thing number 2, I typically tell you what's going on with me as far as what type of entertainment got me motivated, got me moved, what I'm thinking about. And it's often new stuff, right? Discover Weekly on Spotify is often a source for new songs I hadn't considered before, but that's not what's happening here. What's happening here is that I want to tell you about a life-changing musical experience I had as a kid. It was back in the 80s, the late 80s, when Guns N' Roses came on the scene. It all happened in the summer, so wasn't surrounded by my classmates, my friends. I remember being in Iowa with my dad watching MTV at my grandmother's house in Emmitsburg, Iowa, and the video for Sweet Child of Mine came on, and I was mesmerized. Up until that point in my life, I don't think there was any direction for what music I liked. I was not that old, early teens, and I didn't. If you'd asked me what kind of music do you like, I don't think I could have given you an answer. Rock, country, pop, I didn't know. But then I knew. When Guns N' Roses, when I first heard those guitars and drums and Axl Rose's voice, I knew something was different about this music, and I had to hear more. I watched that video I watched MTV for that video, hoping it would come on, and it was a big deal when it came out, so they played it a bunch. And then I heard Welcome to the Jungle. If you've heard those two Guns N' Roses songs, they're very different. You might think it was not a hard rock band when you're listening to Sweet Child of Mine, because that song isn't super hard. It's more of a ballad, and it's sweet, and it's loving, and it's nice. Welcome to the Jungle is crazy in comparison. And the video for that song also got me going, and I realized, hold on, this is what I like. This is the music for me. I went out and bought Appetite for Destruction on vinyl, and I pretty much played that vinyl out on the cheap stereo system I had purchased for myself as a teenager with money I earned working for my dad. That's how I spent it, and I listened to every single second of Appetite for Destruction thousands of times. That noise you're hearing in the background is my dog. It's just part of the show. And what I've always thought about Guns N' Roses then and since is that they came out at a time when hair bands were a big thing. Dudes wearing leather and spandex and crazy neon colors, and David Lee Roth and Warrant and Poison and bands like that. All of those bands to me seemed fake, like they were created by the record company. They seemed corporate. They seemed like they weren't writing their own songs and singing genuinely from the heart. Whereas Guns N' Roses often got lumped in with those hair metal bands. And if you look at Axl Rose's hair in the Welcome to the Jungle video, you would think, oh yeah, he's just like those other bands. But they're not. There was absolutely something different about Appetite for Destruction that was genuine and real compared to the hair metal of the time. So I thought they were a cut above, and a type of music I had not really listened to before, but man, loved it. A year or two later, Guns N' Roses' second album came out, Guns N' Roses Lies, with 4 songs that were live, high energy, electric songs that they had apparently had a wonderful live show at that time, playing clubs in LA and places like that. But the second half of Lies, or if you had the vinyl, the second side of Lies, was 4 acoustic songs. And I loved that album just as much as Appetite for Destruction. Also played it out. Loved the vinyl, had the vinyl. I mean, I read every word of the fake news articles that they had on the Lies cover, the Lies album cover. I was just all about anything and everything Guns N' Roses at that time. And that's when I found out who I was, musically speaking. Like if we were talking about the 5 albums you would need to have forever on a deserted island, Appetite for Destruction and Lies would both be on my list of 5. I wouldn't want to live without that music in the world. So after those 2 albums, it all changed. There was a lot of anticipation for the next Guns N' Roses albums. Use Your Illusion 1 and Use Your Illusion 2 both came out. I went and bought them on cassette. I didn't buy them on vinyl for some strange reason. I was driving at that point, so I probably didn't think I'd care that much about listening to records as opposed to tapes. Tapes were the main thing. But I bought them both and immediately listened to them both many, many, many times. And it was just something was different about Guns N' Roses at that point. They had a different drummer. I could tell. Even back then, I could tell that I didn't like the drumming as much. Matt Sorum's a great drummer, but I liked Steven Adler's drumming better. They sounded like, oh man, some record exec got a hold of them. At the same time, they were also saying crazy things in some of those songs. So I don't know that the record execs completely got a hold of them, but it was more polished, slightly less genuine. And just for me, it didn't grab me anymore. I slowly started fading away from new Guns N' Roses music. There were great songs on those albums. Don't get me wrong. November Rain is fantastic. But for those albums on a whole, I don't even remember most of the other songs on Use Your Illusion 1 or 2. They just weren't my thing. And it was totally bummed me out that Guns N' Roses wasn't keeping up with what I thought they should be doing as a band. Then they came out with a song from a soundtrack from a movie, and they had another one-off song where their songs appeared on other albums. They did a song called Civil War. I kind of liked that song. They did their own version of Knocking on Heaven's Door. Loved their version of that song. I was still into it. I was still a fan, but Use Your Illusion 1 and 2 didn't really do much for me. And then I remember being about 19, 20, something like that, when the Spaghetti Incident came out. And that was kind of the last straw. I was super excited there was a new Guns N' Roses album coming out. Living in the Charlottesville area, I went to Plan 9 Records on the day it was released, grabbed the new, I had it on a CD at this point because I now had the ability to play CDs. It was back then, by the way. And listened to the Spaghetti Incident and was basically horrified that this was this even the same band? Because none of that, it was even listenable as far as I was concerned. But they were doing covers of a bunch of other punk rock songs that they liked, but I did not like how they did them, and that was not my jam as far as music goes. And that's literally the last Guns N' Roses music I purchased. The band kind of split up. Slash did his own thing. He's been in several other bands. Still a big Slash fan. But Axl Rose just went off the deep end, went crazy, and spent 20 years creating Chinese Democracy. I've never listened to it. Couldn't care less. Don't want to hear it. The craziest part about this for me, and I don't really have a point here. I'm just telling you about Guns N' Roses and their effect on my life. It was profound when it first happened. Life-changing, musically speaking. And then a bummer after that. But many, many years later, my dad and I were in New York City. This was somewhere in the neighborhood of 10 years ago, 12, 13 years ago, something like that. We were we were there to do an estimate on a painting job. My dad's a painter, paints houses and apartments for rich people, and one of his clients had an apartment on Central Park South, and so we went up for a few days, did an estimate. And while we were there, we went out to a club just off of Times Square where they had 5 bands for $5. And we went in and hung out. All 5 bands were great. One of them was called November Rain. And they basically did a Guns N' Roses experience. They were a tribute band. And they looked the part, even though they were dressing up in costumes. They didn't actually look like Axl and Slash and Duff and Izzy and Steven, but they dressed up like them. And they basically looked like them, and they definitely sounded like them. I saw Guns N' Roses play live when they released Use Your Illusion 1 and 2. It was on a big tour. This was like the second or first show of the tour. It was them and Metallica and Faith No More. This was in 1992, and I was severely disappointed because their live show was a shambles as far as I was concerned. Axl Rose kept leaving the stage for some unknown reason. The band would just have to sit and jam until he came back. I saw them live. I was disappointed. I left before it was over in 1992. Fast forward to like 2006 or whatever it was, and November Rain at a club in Times Square for $5 put on the Guns N' Roses concert I wanted at RFK Stadium in 1992. They played all the songs, and they played them just like they sound on the album, which is what you want from a tribute band. And they were fantastic. I finally got my Guns N' Roses experience so many years after discovering them. But yeah, it wasn't Guns N' Roses. It was November Rain. And those guys were amazing. So if they're still around playing music anywhere, check them out, because they're the better Guns N' Roses than Guns N' Roses was. And that was thing number 2.
Thing number 3.
So one of the benefits of training people remotely these last few years is that when I'm sitting there in my office, I'm all by myself, and if I need to, I don't know, pick my nose or blow my nose or something like that, all I got to do is turn my camera off, and none of the trainees can see me. I do that for a minute or two. I take care of whatever I got to do and turn the camera back on, and it's great. Today, couldn't do that. First day at work in a long time that I couldn't clean out the old nostrils, and I paid the price. At the end of the day, once everybody had gone, and I'm sort of sitting there wrapping things up, I started digging, and wow, man, nose full of boogers. And boy, it was nice to get them all out of there. But that's one of the perks of remote work that we're losing as we're bringing people back into the office, and it's just. I noticed that, and it's I'm going to have to do better. I'm going to have to go to the bathroom a couple times throughout the day or something just to get the boogers out the nose, because I've gotten used to that. And so I sneeze more when I don't blow my nose, things like that. Anyway, that's the dumbest thing 3 I could think of, and it hit me as I was wrapping up the day that I hadn't picked my nose all day, and now I can when nobody can see me, although you all know now, so it doesn't matter. I mean, I actually brought this up with the class. I said, this will be different. I can't pick my nose in front of you guys because I can't turn my camera off. And they're like, whatever, pick your nose anyway. Who cares? And I think they meant it. So I don't know. Should I try picking my nose in front of 6 new Crutchfield employees or not? Maybe will, maybe won't. Probably won't. But there you go. I think that's all I got. Thanks for listening to yet another episode of 3 Things with JR. Oh, there is another thing. I got it right here in front of me, and I can't believe I almost forgot it. As you probably know, if you've been listening to this show, I'm currently in the middle of rehearsing for The Sound of Music, the musical being put on by Shannon Arts in Stanton. Those rehearsals are... I've got a kind of a small part. I'm playing a Nazi, but I'm not in most of the scenes. I've got kind of like 3 scenes. So I haven't been needed for most of these rehearsals, but I have been able to see videos of each rehearsal, because we have like a private Facebook group. So I've been able to keep up with the progress of all of the other actors singing and dancing and acting and getting their parts ready. And I got to tell you, I'm pretty excited. This show is going to totally do The Sound of Music justice. The performances that I've seen from rehearsals so far tell me that you should go get a ticket. And now's a great time because tickets are now available. Go to shannonarts.org. There will be a link in the show notes for this episode. I'll put a link in the Facebook post when I put that out there, but you might already know that if you're listening to this. Anyway, go get your tickets now. The Shannon Arts Theater is not huge, and they typically sell out big shows like this. So go get tickets. Go get good seats because you're gonna not want to miss The Sound of Music. The musical, it plays in the middle 2 weekends in March coming up here. But even more exciting than that, the character I'm playing doesn't have any songs, right? So I'm not really singing in this show. However, we at Shannon Arts are putting on a benefit concert Friday night, February 3rd. At Shannon Arts, you can come see the cast of Sound of Music singing songs, not really from The Sound of Music, but other songs by Rodgers and Hammerstein. They are the two dudes that wrote The Sound of Music. It was their last musical that they collaborated on, but they did 12 other shows, or 11 or 12 other shows. And so we are all picking songs from their other shows to sing at a benefit concert. And I believe Kiki is going to join me to do a duet of a song called Isn't It Kind of Fun from a musical called State Fair. I was not familiar with this musical or this song until I had this opportunity to pick one of Rodgers and Hammerstein's songs and prepare this little number. And Kiki and I have been rehearsing it here at the house and are eagerly looking forward to singing it live on stage, where it's, we're doing a duet, but it's basically we're soloing these songs, which is not necessarily my strength as a singer, but this song is right in my vocal strength. The key, there's notes I can hit, is what I'm trying to say, and I'm pretty excited. And the song is a fun little duet. So come check that out if you're in the area. Friday, February 3rd. Donate a little money to Shannon Arts so that that organization support the arts, because they're putting on some pretty great productions. They're fun people to work with. None of them get paid to do what they do. The actors on the stage, the people running the theater, the actors, the directors, the lighters, the lighting people, the set deck dressers, costumes, none of that. None of those people are paid a dime to run Shannon Arts. And putting on a show of Sound of Music is not cheap. So come support the show, support the arts, see some great musical performances, and then come see Sound of Music, because you will not be sorry. All right, that's it. I'm over. I'm out. See you next week will be Small Things Considered, and then the week after that we'll be back with another episode of 3 Things with JR. Thanks for being a fan. Thanks for listening. Share this out to your friends and family. Let them know there's a cool podcast discussing Guns N' Roses, picking noses, and what it's like to go back to work after having a crazy night of work dreams. Have a great one, everybody. We'll see you next time.
Turn the tables, turn